Welcome back to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, and we are so excited to be starting the Sports Report just before the Olympic Winter Games begin in Milano Cortina, Italy. Our guest today is the perfect person to guide us through. Peggy Shinn is with us, a longtime Olympic reporter who's covered 8 different Olympics. She grew up skiing herself in the Northeast Kingdom, and beyond her freelance reporting on winter sports, Peggy has written 2 books, including World Class, The Making of the U.S. Women's Cross-Country Ski Team. Peggy Shinn, thank you so much for being with us on the Sports Report.
Thank you for having me, Mitch. This is a dream. Ever since I've heard you on Vermont Public in the morning, your Sports Report, I've wanted to sit in your living room or at a bar and have a beer with you and talk sports.
Our studio audience, which is completely fake, really likes that. So thank you very much, Peggy Shinn.
Maybe we can get a beer sponsor, or
yeah,
you
absolutely.
can get a beer sponsor.
It's great to have you here to talk about this. I mean, first, before we get into the Vermonters and some of the folks who have Vermont ties who are going to be competing on the biggest stage, I want to know more about your covering of the Olympics. I mean, 8 Olympic Games you covered. Do you remember the first one? How did you feel doing that initially?
My first one was 2010, Vancouver. And I think if you ask anybody who's competed in the Olympics or gone to the Olympics, their first is the favorite. You know, everything is magical. For me, I wanted to go to the Olympics as a kid, and I was going to go, I told my parents I wanted to go in alpine skiing, figure skating, or swimming. And if I couldn't do that, I would go in something easy like track and field.
Sure, right.
But I ended up going in writing. So your dreams can come true. They just might not be, they might just take a different form.
What was it like trying to get access to some of these athletes? I mean, everybody wants a piece of their time. It can be difficult, right?
It used to be a lot easier. You know, you'd catch up with them in the off season. I'd go to Lake Placid a lot, where a lot of the winter athletes were training, and you could spend the day with them. You could watch them train. You could sit down with them. That was 2008, 2009. But really, social media has taken a big chunk of that, and athletes want to talk to their fans directly on social media, which is good.
Yeah.
But they get curated content and not more in-depth features. But no, we used to have great access to the athletes, and it was really fun to get to know them and talk to their family and their coaches and, you know, realize how they got there.
You know, as I mentioned, too, at the top, you grew up skiing in the Northeast Kingdom. You're a very good skier yourself. I have to imagine. No, don't
wouldn't go that
face.
far.
You are, indeed. I do have to imagine, though, that your expertise, your knowledge of skiing, did it help you talk to some of these athletes? Did they understand you better? Were you speaking the same language in a way?
Yeah, you know, I've had to cover every Olympic sport, from taekwondo to luge. And every sport has its own language, but it's a pretty easy language to learn. I think with my expertise in skiing, yeah, I can look at the hill and I can tell what's a good run. I know what I'm looking for, but it's more, I was a bicycle racer. That was the sport that I went the farthest in. Huh. And being an athlete and trying to make the Olympic team, even though I was so mediocre that, you know, I was the best of the worst of the worst of the best. But knowing what athletes go through emotionally, the ups and downs, I think is more important, because that's more of the story than the winning and the losing, or, you know, carving a turn versus, you know, blocking a gate. Those are just terms, but it's the emotions that athletes go through, the ups and downs, the mental challenges that I think that make the stories.
Yeah, and to compete at that level, I mean, you're among the best in the world at what you're doing here. It's really just incredible. So given that, who are some of the folks that we should be watching out for who have Vermont ties? Some names that perhaps people don't even know about, but they should be watching for.
Well, I mean, the first ones that come to mind, everybody's heard of, Michaela Schifrin and Jessie Diggins. Michaela grew up, spent her formative years from like age 8 to when she graduated from Burke Mountain Academy in the East. She lived in Lebanon, New Hampshire, or around the Hanover area, and then trained at Burke. So we can kind of claim Michaela as our own, even though she claims Colorado as her home. And then Jessie Diggins grew up in Minnesota, but when she became a pro in 2011, she decided to come to Stratton Mountain, and she owns a condo at Stratton. So we can claim Jessie as well. And they're, you know, two of the big names going into the games.
Do you expect, let me start with Jessie Diggins, you expect her to have a shot at a medal this time around?
Jessie is a medal contender in all 6 of the Olympic women's cross-country ski races. One is the relay, so she'll have 3 other teammates, but the U.S. has been trying so hard to win a medal in the relay because it really shows the team depth. So I'm really hoping they do in that event. And then in the team sprint, she will likely be paired with Julia Kern, who is from Massachusetts, but now calls Vermont home. She has a place in Richmond. and also trained at Stratton Mountain School for years. So those two paired in the team sprint, they've won medals at the past two world championships in both a classic team sprint and a freestyle team sprint. So they're going to be medal contenders. I'm assuming they'll get paired. I mean, you never know. The coaches decide who's going to be in these relays, the night before, 2 nights before the event.
And spoiler alert, we're going to be hearing a little bit from Julia Kern a little bit later in the show because we had a chance to speak with her, which was terrific. I want to circle back to Mikaela Shiffrin for a moment. In some ways, nobody has less to prove than Mikaela Shiffrin. She has set the record for the most first place finishes in the world, man or woman, right?
Yes.
In
she
history?
has 108 World Cup wins. The second place, the guy whose record she beat, was 86 World Cup wins. So she's 22 beyond that, which is unprecedented.
Unreal.
And her slalom, she said she's skiing the best slalom of her life right now. There have been 7 or 8 slaloms. She's won every single one but one, and that one she finished second place in. And, she's a medal contender again. But we said the same thing going into Beijing. But Beijing had a lot of other variables that this Olympics don't have.
Remind us about the year for Beijing again.
The year of Beijing was 2022.
Okay,
And
right.
Mikaela competed in 6 events and didn't come away with a medal. But going into the Beijing, we were still dealing with COVID, and we were in a country where you had a lot to worry about. You had to worry about not bringing your laptop, not bringing your phone. You had to get burner phones. You had to get, if you were going to bring a laptop, you had to get a burner laptop. There was just a lot of extra steps that can cause anxiety. Now we're going to an Olympics where they've competed for years. Like Cortina has been a World Cup stop since, I think, 1987. Lindsey Vonn skied that course 65 times, I counted.
Wow.
Schifrin's probably skied it 30 times. Like, they know the course. They know the snow. Like in Beijing, we had a very... the wind comes right down from Siberia. It is the driest, coldest wind. I felt like I was being freeze-dried out there. And it causes the snow to be a different consistency. So they're skiing on a different surface that they've never skied on before. They don't have those conditions in North America and Europe. But now they're going to a place where they do know what the snow is like. They know what the food is like. They know the language. They know the alphabet. They know how to get on the Wi-Fi.
Right.
Simple things like that. But it starts adding up and causing anxiety, and that can just start sapping you.
Well, the reason I asked was because of what happened with Mikaela Shiffrin in 2022. And, does this Olympics represent for her a chance at, I don't want to say retribution, because again, she has nothing to prove. She's the best. But, I have to imagine she wants a much better finish this time around in 2026 on the Olympic stage.
I think so. She said in 2022, the Olympics happened to her, and now she wants to happen to the Olympics. So I'm wishing her all the best. Oh, the other thing is she will only be competing in her 2 strongest events, slalom and giant slalom, and probably the team combined as well, which is a new event at this Olympics. One teammate skis the downhill, and then a different teammate skis the slalom. And she and Breezy Johnson won a gold medal at World Championships last year in this event. And I think, we don't know who's going to be competing in the downhill yet. We're hoping Lindsey Vonn can compete, but any one of the women on the U.S. speed team could help Mikaela win a gold medal. Mikaela's that good in slalom. But anyway, so Mikaela will be competing in fewer events. She's an athlete who really thrives on training. And when you're competing in 6 events, you don't have a lot of time to train. Well, now she's going to have a lot of time to train. And she's an introvert. And she doesn't necessarily like being in the media spotlight. She's learned how to handle it, and she handles it very well. But I think with some of the other athletes like Lindsey Vonn and Jessie Diggins taking a little bit of the heat off of her, I think that's going to help a lot as well.
I want to talk about Lindsey Vonn in a minute, but first let's talk about some more Vermonters. Ryan Cochran-Siegel is a name I'm sure who comes to mind. A lot of folks around here know him. What are his chances like this year? What's he competing in?
So he's competing in the speed races, so the downhill and the Super G, and probably the team combined as well. He finished 4th place last year in that event with another Vermonter, Ben Ritchie, but Ben unfortunately did not make the U.S. team. The men don't have a specific slalom skier on their team.
Wow.
So that's going to be kind of an interesting race. But Ryan just finished yesterday. He finished 3rd in a downhill, and he finished 2nd at Beaver Creek earlier this year. So he's coming in with some good momentum.
And what about Ben Ogden, another name that a lot of folks around this region know?
Oh, Ben, he's great. he'll be leading the men's team along with Gus Schumacher, who is from Alaska. And Ben, they're hoping to bring home the first medal for the U.S. men in 50 years. Bill Koch won a silver medal at the 1976 Olympics.
It's been that long?
It's been 50 years since the men's cross-country team won a medal. And Ben is a very good sprinter, and his teammate Gus, they just finished third in a team sprint at the World Cup 2 weeks ago. And that's the first time they've ever finished on the podium in that event. But Ben, he's a great sprinter. He's a great distance skier, great personality, and he'll be representing Vermont pretty well.
Now, a few years ago, you've told me this story before, but I want you to repeat it again. Ben Ogden was introduced to the nation from being from a very strange town in New Hampshire. What is the story behind that?
So Ben is a very proud Vermonter. He grew up in Landgrove. His family has been here since his grandfather came up, over probably 100 years ago. And NBC was doing their research for his Olympic profile before the 2022 Olympics. If you go on NBCOlympics.com, you'll find a bio for every athlete. And they send a researcher out to gather that information, like what's your hometown, what's your birthplace, what's your birth date. So the researcher said, well, Ben, you were born in Vermont, right? Because he'd been talking so proudly about Vermont. And Ben said, no, embarrassingly, New Hampshire. So his Olympic bio reads, birthplace, embarrassing New Hampshire, which I think is hilarious. And
by the way, nothing against the good folks in New Hampshire. I think Ben was just trying to have a lighthearted moment there. And then...
Well, he was just saying no. He was embarrassed that he's born in New Hampshire, but the NBC researcher didn't think to look at the map and realize there's no embarrassing New Hampshire. Poor New Hampshire. There's no town that's embarrassing.
Embarrassing for NBC a little bit, but wonderful story there. Who are some other Vermonters that you've got an eye on?
Paula Moltzen, we can't forget her. She was born in Minnesota, but she's a UVM NCAA champion. Yeah. And she and her husband recently bought a home in Waitsfield. And she's now a very proud Vermonter. And she's been going great guns in giant slalom and slalom. She has, I think, 9 World Cup podiums on her resume, and 6 have come in the last year. And several of them have come this year. So she's going to be a contender in both slalom and giant slalom, maybe team combined too. I don't know how many teams we get in the team combined.
Wow. Okay, so that's one name. Who else?
Jack Young. He's a young man from Jay, Vermont, and he made his first Olympic team in cross country. He was in a sprint final earlier this year in December. So it'll be an inaugural Olympics for him. And he was known as a North Country Union High School quarterback and outfielder, baseball outfielder, which I didn't know.
Yeah, he was a terrific athlete. Again, another spoiler alert. We will be hearing from Jack Young in just a moment. An incredible athlete who just was great at skiing too. But yeah, he was a star athlete in baseball, football. He's done it all. And he was a nice young man to speak with. And we'll be hearing from him in a moment.
And then we have to bring up biathlon because it's the one winter sport the U.S. has never won a medal in. And we've got some good biathletes this year. 4 of them claim some connection to Vermont. We have Margie Freed, who's a UVM grad. And then Deidre Irwin and Sean Doherty are Vermont National Guard. They represent Vermont National Guard. I think Maxime Germain does as well.
Wow.
And then Paul Schomer is from Craftsbury Racing, Green Racing Project. So biathlon, we've got to keep an eye on them. They're pretty strong contenders, I think, in the mixed relay where they have 2 men and 2 women. They finished 4th recently in a World Cup. And then we have a very young competitor in snowboarding, Jess Perlmutter from Killington Mountain School.
How old is she?
She's 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's going to be out there competing in the big air and all the other stuff.
Yes.
That is pretty cool. Speaking about, again, biathlete, the biathlon, U.S. has never medaled ever in that.
It's true.
I have to ask a question about, because we spoke to a woman named Chloe Levins, who's from Rutland.
Yes.
She's on the team as an alternate.
Yes.
Now, what does that mean exactly? Like, if somebody gets hurt, does that mean she takes their place, or what will she get to compete, or how does that work?
I don't know. I've been chatting with her mom. She will get to compete if somebody gets injured. Yes. I'm not quite sure how it works. If an athlete only does one race and then cannot continue competing or does not want to compete, does Chloe then have an opportunity to step in? And I'm unsure there, but I really hope She does. Chloe's great. I remember her skiing when she was 2 years old, just chasing her 3 older siblings, in her little snowsuit out there, chugging along.
Pride of Rutland. It would be awesome if she got a chance to do that. What about some other competitors, or chances for other Vermont athletes?
Well, I think our best medal chances are with Ryan Cochran-Siegel, RCS, Paula Molson, and Schifrin, Michaela Schifrin.
Of course.
In Alpine. I'd like to say we could come home with 5 medals. I'm going to put my money on 5 Olympic medals in Alpine.
I mean, that would be incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm overshooting
the
there.
The competition is tough, let's face it.
And then in cross-country skiing, Jessie Diggins, I think she'll win another 3 medals.
Wow.
And then Ben and Gus Schumacher, 1 or 2 medals there.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. We're going to hold you to those predictions. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were about to mention somebody else.
Well, then we have in moguls, we have another woman, Olivia Giacchio, who is from Reddington, Connecticut, now lives in Steamboat. But she went to Killington Mountain School and spent some time in the Killington area, going to school with my daughter's friends and playing soccer with my daughter back in middle school. And she's a real contender in moguls. She's been on the World Cup podium a number of times in moguls. So keep your eye on that sport.
I have to circle back and ask about Lindsey Vonn, because the news came out, I guess, a few days ago, really. She was taking a practice run. It was supposed to be her last practice run before competing, and she got hurt. How badly was she hurt? What's her status?
It was actually a race.
It was
a downhill on Friday in Cron, Montana, Switzerland. And interestingly, in October, I was down in New York at a Team USA Media Summit where Lindsey spent a lot of time talking to the press. And one reporter asked her if she would, step back from any races that she thought were dangerous or didn't want to compete in for whatever reason, or if she was just committed to competing in every race she could. And at that time, she specifically called out the Crans Montana course and race, that she said she was going to be strategic at that time. And if she needed the points to maintain her start position, she would compete there. But the course, the race was notorious for weather, snow conditions, and injuries. So when I saw her in the training runs last week, I was kind of questioning what her thought process was. And then when she was competing, I mean, 2 women had gone down ahead of her and already not finished. One had a terrible crash right at the bottom. Her helmet flew off. So, I mean, she's a competitor, and it's hard to keep a competitor out of the starting gate. But it just seems like she was so close to her goal. 1 week away, just over 1 week away from her goal, and it's just heartbreaking to see that.
Now, she hurt her left knee on that run. Looked pretty bad. The comments that I saw in the press said she was thinking about, she said, I can still make it. I can still get there and compete. Do we know yet? When are we going to find out if she's actually going to compete in these Olympics?
She's holding her cards very close to the chest. She's holding a press conference either tomorrow or Wednesday in Cortina. Is it a bruise? Is it a torn ligament? Is it a broken bone? We don't know. I mean, she did ski down on that leg. She wasn't lifting it up. I hope it's a bruise. She competed in 2010 Olympics with a bad bruise on her shin, and she won gold there. So
that's amazing.
I hope it's just a bruise, but we don't know. Her team isn't talking to the press. She's not. The only thing we see, everybody else sees, is on Instagram and Facebook. So wishing her the best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you tell me, but other than Michaela Schifrin, she is probably the best known woman skier in the world, maybe the best known skier in the world. Is that fair to say?
I would say yes. She and Schifrin are the best known skiers in the world. And Lindsey's, Michaela's starting to do it, starting to cross over into, more of the mainstream. But Lindsey has always embraced that, with fashion, with, I think she was on Law and Order. She's really kind of broadened her personality beyond sport. And so I think more people do know of Lindsey Vonn. I'm not going to get into who's the better ski racer. I think Michaela definitely has more records, but they compete in 2 different, it's like comparing apples and oranges. They compete in 2 different types of races.
Sure.
Lindsey's speed, Michaela's technical. I mean, both of them earlier in their career switched over. So, it's like comparing, Tom Brady and Peyton
and a running
Manning.
back, maybe,
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Well, they've both done so much for the sport, though. I
Yeah.
mean, it's incredible the profile for women's skiing that they have established, just the two of them. And, again, not to be ageist about it or anything, but Lindsey Vonn is 41 years old now, right? And she hadn't competed at this level in, 5 years?
Yeah, 5.5 years.
It's a remarkable story. We hope she can get back, but we'll have to wait and see. I have to ask about your attire here, Peggy. That is such a cool jacket. Did you get that at one of the Olympics games you covered? What's going on there?
This was part of the Team USA outfits that we all get before all the games. This was before the Beijing games. It's very warm in the front. It's very puffy, but the sleeves are very thin. So my sleeves were very cold.
So they ran out of material
games.
there. It looks a little bit like.
Yeah, was it run out of budget? I don't know. But luckily I had a friend on the bobsled team who helped me out and gave me a much warmer jacket to wear in addition to this. So
I know you've covered a lot of these games, as we've established. You've written about these athletes. You've spoken with them. You've established some relationships. Do you still get a little bit of a thrill or a chill during the opening ceremonies? What do the Olympics mean to you?
They mean more to me than I thought, because I'm not going to these games. And I thought, okay, well, now I get to stay home and I get to ski, and I don't have to stand in a mix zone for 3 hours and 2 minutes waiting for Lindsey Vonn to come through. And I don't have to worry about, the bus dumping me off and, in the boondocks and not picking me up. But I'm getting FOMO, and and I love the Olympics. They touch you in your soul and in your heart, and how much, these are athletes who, most of them are competing for the love of sport. I mean, very few of them are making a living at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you watch football, you watch hockey, baseball, those guys are all killing it. They're making a lot of money. And these guys, most of them, a lot of the bobsled and luge athletes, they're over waiting tables in Lake Placid in the summertime.
Amazing.
So you kind of know what sport means to them. And I think it means, I don't know, I love the Olympics.
The passion and the love for it.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for being with us here. Can you stick around for the show? We're going to bring you back a little later on and talk about the Super Bowl. I know what a big football fan you are.
Okay. I was hoping to talk about one more thing with cross country and the equal distance.
Please mention it.
Do we have time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So this has Vermont roots. So for the first time in Olympic history, the women and the men are going to be competing at the same distance. So in previous Olympics, the women raced 30 kilometers, the men raced 50 kilometers. Now they're both doing 50. Across the board, the distances have been equalized. And that started in Vermont. Molly Peters, who is the cross-country and track and field and cross-country running coach at St. Mike's, has been pushing for that since 2020. And the equal distance first started in the U.S., and then the International Ski Federation picked up on it, and we started getting equal distance races at the World Championships and the World Cup, and now the Olympics. Equal distance. So,
that's fantastic.
Yay.
And maybe someday we'll get Nordic combined being a male and female sport as well.
Yeah. So watch Nordic combine at this Olympics, because the more viewership they get, the better chance that they can stay in the games.
Fantastic. Peggy Shinn, Olympic reporter, joining us here on the Sports Report. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
We'll see you in a little bit. And we're going to come back and hear from some of the Vermont athletes with Vermont ties who are competing in this year's Olympics. Thanks for being with us on the Sports Report.